Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brothers, sisters, friends and the foes out there, and welcome to this special episode of the Blood Brothers podcast with your host, Dilly Hussain. Before I give you all a very important update regarding this episode and the guest, I want to remind all the avid podcast listeners that you can find this episode on all 3 seasons on the major audio platforms. And if you're watching this video via YouTube, don't be cheeky, remember to click subscribe. This episode's guest is a notorious, infamous figure. Controversial, no doubt. He is formerly a national icon for the British far right. He was the former leader of the British Nationalist Party and a former member of the European Parliament between 2009 to 2014 for the northwest of England. And that's Nick Griffin. Now, this will cause a stir amongst many within the Muslim and non-Muslim communities alike, understandably. There were times even during this episode where I felt uncomfortable knowing the guest's background, his previous comments, and what he has contributed towards in terms of the climate of Islamophobia and racism that Muslims experienced post 9/11. But I believe, after making sure with scholars and advisors, that the wider strategic benefit outweighs the perceived harms of this engagement. Why? Because for the last 51 days, brothers and sisters, we have seen politicians, faith leaders, media outlets alike basically calling for the genocide, the continued genocide of our brothers and sisters in Gaza, where the death toll is now 20,000, 36,000 injured, of which 8,000 were children. And we're just merely touching the surface here. And given that, I feel that it is an important conversation to have with someone who, without a shadow of a doubt, does represent a constituency of British white non-Muslims. So, given all that, I hope you all enjoyed the podcast. It's quite long, it's just over 2 hours. A lot was discussed. And we didn't want to share this episode on YouTube because we didn't want it for our channel to get a community guideline strike or for us to experience censorship, especially as our YouTube presence is growing. Nick Griffin is someone who's banned on all meta platforms, so Facebook, Instagram and so forth. So just to be on the safe side, we have released this podcast on Rumble, but we've also published it on our website. And as I mentioned earlier, you can find this episode on all the major audio platforms. All the links will be in the description. I hope you all enjoy the podcast. Do leave your comments, follow us on Rumble. And until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.